Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the special meeting of the Delray Beach City Commission this Tuesday, July 22nd. If the clerk, I'm sorry, I was supposed to warn you first. Welcome, everyone, to the City Commission, the special meeting of the City Commission this July 22nd. If the clerk would kindly call the roll.
Commissioner Markert.
Here.
Vice Mayor Long.
Here. Commissioner
Cassell.
Here.
Deputy Vice Mayor Burns.
Here.
Mayor Carney.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. We have two items on the agenda. The first will be public comments. The second will be the fiscal year 25-26 proposed millage rate, which will be explained to you more when the city manager has an opportunity to speak when that comes up. But in the meanwhile, this meeting is open for public comments. And for anyone wishing to speak on any topic or agenda item, there's no quasi-judicial, the public will have an opportunity to speak. You will each have 3 minutes. Come to the lectern, give your name and address for the record, and make sure you sign in. And now we're open for public comment.
Don't we usually do public comment after the presentation?
No, not on a millage thing. You let them talk first, and then you adopt. So anyone wishing to make public comment?
Am I the only public comment?
You're it.
Okay. Thank you. I'm the only one that wants to be.
You want to be first.
I didn't want to be first, but I'll be brave and I'll
Do
be
you
first.
take the last cookie off a plate too if it's offered to you by the host?
You're
not really supposed to. The host
There's
really wants it.
nothing wrong
you know.
with that.
You know, the host says, "Would you like the last cookie?" You're supposed to say no because the host really wants it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, it's there you go.
Is
Anyway,
that an Irish thing?
You're up.
You think? Okay, whatever. I'm Christina Morrison. I live at 1000 Lowry Street in beautiful downtown Delray Beach. I know a little bit about the city budget because I spent years being on the committee and then as the chair of the Financial Review Board for the city. So I know a little bit about the budget. Not so much in recent years, but it seems to me in recent years several expenses that used to be not in the city budget somehow got into the city budget. Let me just give you a few examples. And I don't know how this happened, but maybe we can figure it out and put the money spent where it should be, how it should be paid for. First one is the freebie. The freebie started as a pilot program by the CRA, funded by the CRA as a pilot program, and then somehow, after the pilot program, it got into this as part paid by the city. Talk to the CRA. They feel they can't fund it because of the guidelines that are now in place for CRAs. They can't fund it ongoing, but it benefits only the downtown. It doesn't benefit anybody that lives in Congress, north of George Bush, south of 10th. It only benefits the downtown. So why isn't the downtown paying for it? I don't know how it got into the city budget, but I think that's something we have to look at. Another one is Old School Square. Old School Square for decades was run by a nonprofit that raised the money from private donors and from other people that wanted to give money to have the arts in Delray Beach. It was run that way for 30 years, 29, 30, 31, a long time, decades. And now I see it's in the city budget. Don't know how this happened, and I don't know why it happened, but it was run pretty well by a nonprofit, so maybe a nonprofit should be running it now, and that would give the city back about $1.5 million that you're spending now to run Old School Square. You pay some of it to the DDA, you pay some of it to the parks, you pay some of it to staff, but it adds up to about $1.5 million. The St. Patty's Day Parade. Again, for a long time, I'm going back. See, I'm the old person here. Some of you up there weren't around when all this was going on. So just Tom and I were around. But the rest of you, Mr. Markert, I'm sure you weren't here. But
I wish.
But St. Patty's Parade, again, was run by a nonprofit that raised the money to have the St. Patty's Day Parade. And then somehow, over the last several years, it somehow got into the city budget in the fire department, and now it's a line item in the city budget. Don't know how that happened, but maybe it's time to give it back to a nonprofit and save the city more money on top of the $1.5 million from Old School Square. I'm out of time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's only the first page.
Well, you can get up again, use a, fake ID, get up, use a different name, just give it your best shot.
Hi, I'm Joy Howell, 25 Northwest 24th Court.
I just wanted to speak in support of keeping perhaps the same millage rate as last year because it's still going to cost us more taxes. And the reason I say that is that, by the way, I thought the city staff did a great job coming up with what they wanted to provide to you as options. That's their job to do that, and they did a great job at that. So I'm not knocking them in any way in this, but I just want to speak on behalf of property owners in this sense. We think about property taxes going up, and they have been going up, as we all know. Even when the millage rate got reduced every year, we know what the total tax burden was. But when you think of most property owners, you don't think of property owners like landlords that own multiple properties, which we do. And I can tell you, we moved here 10 years ago, and we started buying pretty old, broken down properties, frankly, over on Northeast 7th, 3 blocks from the avenue. We still had hypodermic needles in our gutter. We spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to improve these properties, and we didn't mind paying the increased assessments, right? But at this point, a property tax that I might have had back a few years ago, just maybe 5 years ago, might have been $7,000, $8,000. It's $18,000 per property now. We paid, not too far south of $100,000 in property taxes last year, and we can't raise our rents. I mean, we haven't been able to do it for 5-6 years now just because the pressures are it's very competitive in the rental real estate market. We have a combination of rentals, annual, seasonal, et cetera. So I just wanted to put that out there for you guys to think about. It's obviously a big burden for the individual property owner, the homeowner, et cetera, that aren't homesteaded, but it's a bigger property problem, property tax problem for those who are trying to provide lodging, help tourists find places to stay, etc. And you can't raise your rates, and you're in the squeeze, the famous squeeze: property insurance, property taxes. Thank you.
Hi, Michelle Dadich, 23 Southwest 6th Street. I just like to kind of piggyback on two people that spoke. The freebie, just from my personal experience, I have a lot of licenses. I'm an educated person, made plenty of money in my lifetime, but I thought I'm going to get rich working as a freebie driver. If you can't beat them, join them. When we first moved here 4.5 years ago, we thought it was the coolest thing to get a little taxi to go to downtown. But it was taking 45 minutes or an hour. It was kind of crazy. And like anything in life, not that I'm saying it's right, but you pay a tip and then you get a faster service. And I'm not kidding. Our average tip was $20 for a freebie driver. And I thought, there was twice we paid $50 tip because we needed them to come back and get more of our party, which I'm thinking that's kind of crazy because I thought it's supposed to be a free service. So I got a job working as a freebie driver. And what do you know? There's a couple of things to say about it. Once you've got the job and the training, they said you're supposed to even wear a tag in the vehicle. They are not allowed to accept a tip. I couldn't tell you how many tips that I gave to our freebie drivers that came to our house. Number two, I worked for them for a total of 3 weeks until I got shot at in an area that wasn't even on the map. And the police were called, and some 2 kids sent out a mortar, something that sounds like an explosion, like that you're getting shot at, and 100 birds popped in the air. And we were in the Las Vegas shooting, so I have PTSD when sounds like somebody shooting at me. But that's besides the point. So then on, I just decided that obviously freebie wasn't for me, and you're not going to be making, your $500 a day in tips, just like because everyone else isn't a tipper. But my point that I'm making on this bigger part is that working there, the drivers, the guy who taught me that you can bypass any of the people that you want in the ride. There's no set allocation for where you're actually scheduled to drive in a certain area. You can drive wherever you want. You can literally drive to just go to the Opal Grand and drive back to town. So you're picking and choosing. A. B, if you don't like the street where they're at, you just say there's a glitch on the computer system, they learn how to bypass it, so you're not picking up the people that you're really supposed to be accommodating, especially if that's now our tax dollars. 3, after I left with the whole issue that I had with them, because I was going off of a map in an unsafe area, which I didn't realize that people literally walked down the street with guns hanging out on their hips, off of Atlantic, 13th, 14th Street, I think it was 12th or 13th streets around there. I don't know, multiple times I saw people walking around with guns hanging off their head. I'm from Detroit, and we can have a gun like the rest, but I don't want to live in an area like that where I'm feeling unsafe. So I said, well, my husband said he'd buy me, that I'm saying I would buy it myself, but I just said I'll buy my own, whatever, competition golf cart company. But there was a non-compete for the city, so you couldn't do that. And that was back, we're talking 4 years ago. So I just wanted to point that out. Like, I agree on their freebie thing. This shouldn't be on a whole city budget. That's just my opinion. It's just wrong from a whole city perspective.
Thank you very much. Any other members of the public? Seeing one, there we are.
Hi, I'm Mark Ronald, 722 Northeast 2nd Street. Forgive me, I'm going to read it quickly because we only have 3 minutes. This is a great town, and a lot of you folks are responsible for making it so. But when we focus on the future today, you're contemplating an ill-considered, unsustainable financial strategy, which will inevitably do serious harm to this town. I got the financial literacy credentials to provide an informed opinion. I've been on numerous boards, up to and including $25 billion public companies, universities. I've guest lectured in numerous places, and I was an advisor to 4 different secretaries of defense on business matters, both parties. The numbers in front of us are really simple. The population is growing 1%. The town is growing 2% in real terms, and you're planning on raising the rate by 6.5% if you just hold the rate the same. Those numbers don't match. You're taking a bigger tax base over a small, hardly growing base. That's the problem. It's not any more complicated than that. And you've got to do something about it. And actually, the only way you're going to do that is to go back to the people that know the business, that work for you or work under you, and give them a budget that is constrained by the maximum, which in my judgment would be 3% millage rate. That's inflation. You cannot let the budget grow faster. What's going to happen here is your wonderful AAA rating and your reserves, you don't stand a chance. These guys aren't stupid that do the ratings. They talk to people, they look at the balance, they look at what's happening. It's already been clear. The problem has just been growing every year, the disconnect between the growth of the town and the growth of the budget. In your family, in any institution, that just does not work. So I suggest you pick a number, go back to your very competent staff, and tell them, give me the best budget you can. It's going to have flaws. It may not include everything that everybody wants. It won't. But belt-tightening now is going to save problems later. Walk down Atlantic Avenue. Look at the number of stores. See what's happening with sales of of homes. It used to be a seller's market. Now it's a buyer's market. All the houses are going for less than the asking price. So the little bit of signs are there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public wishing to address the commission? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Okay, thank you very much for all who made remarks. We're now on item 2, the fiscal year 2026 proposed millage rate. I'm going to open it up with City Manager Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, and those of you in attendance. Good late afternoon and good early evening. My interest today is to offer a brief executive summary in terms of the current position based on feedback, guidance, and direction having been offered during the July 8th City Commission workshop meeting regarding the subject of millage rate policy consideration. By the way, there's no formal additional staff presentations at this time. This is really an opportunity for City Commission to simply and long last offer its direction relative to a millage rate consideration. That was actually scheduled 1 week ago today, July 15th, 2025. However, interest was expressed to have a special meeting to discuss some ancillary considerations to assist the City Commission with a decision-making process, as I'll put it. Interestingly enough, ladies and gentlemen, for clarity, the Office of the City Manager, working closely with all departments, did not arrive at considerations lightly. Numerous scenarios were taken under consideration. However, a great deal of time and energy was invested to offer identification of efficiencies in operations to every extent plausible. That included the identification of literally millions of dollars of opportunities to achieve in that regard. We've outlined that to the Commission over the past 5 months via various presentations while striking a balance with respect to additional requests that were offered that quite frankly did not become part of the aggregate proposed budget as it's being finalized by the Office of the City Manager, but to also take under consideration the expectation offered by most of the elected officials to maintain level of service. This particular year's proposed budget process was especially challenging considering the obligation directed by the then City Commission 2 years ago that the Delray Beach Fire Rescue Department will transition to a 24/72 from a 24/48 shift structure, not to mention the commitment to maintain a 3-person EMS operation as well. We've offered a great deal of analysis early on a couple occasions to demonstrate different opportunities to achieve efficiencies in operations. In essence, ladies and gentlemen, much work was accomplished to offer efficiencies in operations metrically. I think we've done a nice job demonstrating what that actually is before considering any adjustments to millage rate policy. In other words, this is not a case of staff, the Office of the City Manager, Department of Finance, etc., simply taking a look at the municipal rate of inflation and matching a millage rate adjustment consistent with that. No, we were more dependent on any and all opportunities to identify efficiencies in operations to help streamline costs to the extent that we possibly can, while also recognizing, like every other municipality in the United States of America, experiencing escalating costs to provide services or to at least maintain level of service. So a continuous process nevertheless. During the July 8, 2025 City Commission workshop meeting regarding the topic, we were able to provide several millage rate options for review and consideration, much of which to be as conservative as we possibly can, but we were able to strike a balance by way of input from the City Commission as well as ancillary expectations to consider a 6.1611 position. The dialogue at this time will likewise outline for the City Commission what that scenario would appear to be, and again, is based on guidance and direction having been offered by the elected body 2 weeks ago today, and we were actually prepared to discuss this during the July 15th visit. Given the direction on part of the Commission to have a special meeting so that ancillary considerations can be evaluated and entertained, we are in position to talk a little bit about the 6.1611 position at this time very briefly. Next slide, please. I do not have a remote control. So in essence, ladies and gentlemen, we've discussed different scenarios to this effect going back to the June 10th meeting. However, given the City Commission's guidance offered during the July 8th visit, an operating millage of 6.1611 yields proposed revenues as of July 3rd of $180,351,927 against a proposed expenditure consideration considering all points relative to maintaining levels of service as well as the transition involving the Fire Rescue Department of $203,727,916. An initial gap of $23.3 million. However, accepting the direction regarding maintaining a EMS position of 3 individuals per unit, as well as the transition regarding A-Guide funding, working with individual elected officials, receiving feedback, etc., there is some interest expressed to consider what we can do in that regard in light of changing dynamics at the Community Redevelopment Agency level. thus the incorporation of $927,000 for that purpose. Likewise, a revised expenditure operating budget against the general fund of $205,954,916, a revised projected initial gap of $25.6 million. With the 6.1611 millage rate position, the projected ad valorem revenue increases to $13.5 million, as well as a few additional efficiencies in operations above and beyond what we previously talked about during the preceding meetings. Vacancies as of May at 30%, $1.4 million, and the attrition rate, a very common practice of municipalities and quite frankly many different sectors, public and private nonprofit, take a look at attrition in different departments to come up with a way to incorporate that as part of the budget. We were able to calculate that at being a little bit over $3 million. Identifying ancillary efficiencies in terms of travel and training, $245,500, as well as an outcome from reserves, while we're being able to maintain our fund balance policy position between 21 and 25%. This particular outcome achieves a 21.2% position with respect to fund balance position. So the proposed budget contemplates a fund balance position of $41.5 million, just shy of it, or 21.2%, which is a click higher than the minimum range of 21%. Again, the policy currently being 21 to 25%. Interestingly, ladies and gentlemen, with all these adjustments, in addition to the fund balance position, the opportunity for a revised gap of 0. Therefore, the ability to achieve a balanced budget consideration as well as a healthy fund balance position to the extent that we can. Next slide, please. Just to briefly highlight, given the dialogue and direction offered during the July 8th meeting 2 weeks ago today, so the millage rate position, we do take under consideration the taxable value of average residents in Delray Beach. We're talking about a monthly outcome of $9.51 or $114 a year. Interestingly enough, ladies and gentlemen, the experience I enjoyed during the first few months of the current fiscal year as a resident of Delray Beach, interacting with a number of people, Mr. Moore, Mr. City Manager, Terrence, however way they decided to address me. I understand that the city of Delray Beach made this rollback rate reduction. Well, I received my property tax bill and it's actually higher. And it's important to underscore anytime we have an opportunity to do this, including the upcoming town hall engagement 2 days from today, is the property tax bill, Delray Beach is not the lion's share at all. It's somewhere in the neighborhood of 35, 34%. The lion's share, of course, is Palm Beach County School District, as well as the Palm Beach County Board of Commissioners, as well as a few other smaller districts. And so it was interesting because, of course, that's a classic scenario in which I'm questioning as city manager of different places, etc., as to why, despite the city of Delray Beach reduced its millage rate, they're still paying the same, if not more. And I do my best to try to explain fiscal tax policy to individual residents and stakeholders when given the opportunity to do so. However, I do not represent any other organizations other than the city of Delray Beach. Next slide, please. There's also been a number of questions regarding the millage rate history over the past 10 years. This is simply a friendly reminder as to what that has looked like. Going back to 2017 fiscal year, we're coming up on fiscal year 2026. So given the direction as offered during the July 8th workshop meeting on the subject, 6.1611 is actually still lower than that of the previous fiscal year, as well as lower than the initially recommended millage rate of 6.2611 as offered a year ago today for the current fiscal year. Likewise, ladies and gentlemen, we relied heavily, just to repeat some of the comments I've made earlier, we heavily relied on any and all opportunities to identify efficiencies in operations with the caveat that we maintain levels of service. That was really the expectation of the majority of you all. I do what I can to work with staff, encourage outcomes at an executive level, at an executive decision-making basis to get us to where we need to be. and striking all balances, especially considering the piece regarding the fire rescue department, it brings us to this position. With that, ladies and gentlemen, no formal presentation. This is simply the commission's opportunity to dialogue amongst yourselves, take under consideration any specific thoughts or direction you may wish to offer. Both myself and Mr. Dakowitz are likewise in position to address any specific questions you all may have as you continue to deliberate. Otherwise, no formal presentation. This is you all's time. Next slide, please, if you can just position it accordingly. There is no next slide, but just close it out. That. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Since I'm the one who really pushed to have this meeting for the discussion of furtherance of trying to hold the millage rate as where we are today, what I'm asking for, what I'm looking for. And by the way, I'm the only one that's come forth with any cuts. We can agree with them, disagree with them, but there was an invitation for everybody else to come up with some. I haven't seen any. And I'm sorry, I think staff did a great job, but it's really up to us to kind of look at this and determine what we want that number to be, and to come back with a millage rate and then say, staff, you have to figure out how to make it work within this millage rate, which is what I propose by retaining the millage rate. I'm asking you essentially to look for an additional 101% on $184 million budget. So when you think about what I'm asking for, and looking at the fact that there has been a 50% increase in what people have been paying, not millage and all that stuff, but out of pocket in the last 6 years, to say that 1% can't be found after you've had a 50% increase when you've had minimal increase in population and minimal increase in staff, I don't think anybody really buys that. And we've had these budget increases, and we talk about the millage rate. When I ran for office, everybody understood, and everybody said, well, we lowered the millage. Everyone understood they were paying more money. And what we're talking about doing now is, even if we do nothing with this millage rate, everybody is going to be out of pocket. The city's going to have additional $8.5 million revenues. That may be higher. We don't know. That's kind of the rough number people are throwing around. So everybody's going to pay more money, even if they keep the current millage rate. What the city is asking, without anyone trying to find any additional cuts, is we want everyone to pay more. And I think really that is really unfair, because what we're asking the city with people to do is, without looking at our own house first, we're asking other people to contribute. And I'm going to take, again, exception, because I don't believe there's anybody in this room that would sell their house today for $447,000. If I'm wrong, you may be one or two, but the vast majority of you would not sell your house for. So included in that number, and I understood you took a weighted average, but understand that there were several thousands of units that are valued at $200,000 or less that were included, a good half of which, I'm told, don't pay any tax at all, because they qualify for the $50,000, they qualify for the additional $25,000 for being elderly, and then they have the disabled veterans benefit on the top. So there's so included in the average, because if you go to Lake Ida, and I don't have those figures in front of me, I did send an email out, but the average price in Lake Ida's, assessed value is about $2 million. The beach, I don't even want to go there, that's close to $3.5 million. Tropic Isle, again, a couple of $1 million when you take the condos out. And you go to different parts, even in the northwest, southwest neighborhood, and we all know this, we're on the CRA board, vacant lots are going for $200,000. And they're certainly not building a house to sell, and depending on where, by the way, if you're closer to Atlantic Avenue, they're going for $400,000. I saw one for $425,000 the other day. It's within 2 blocks of Atlantic. So depending on where you are in the northwest, southwest neighborhoods, lots are going for that. So it's ridiculous to say the average value is $447,000, because the reality is most people are going to pay, values are way above that amount, and for us to even consider that as a bona fide reason for increasing the millage rate is absurd. I want to point out that a couple of weeks back, and I was provided a copy, the governor's office sent a letter to the city. It's their new, they have a new Doge department, and they're going to all the cities and they're asking them for, to review their budgets, to review all their kinds of stuff. Now, this was the article in the Palm Beach Post. It happened to be today. It was on my list a couple days ago. It was on the day talking about how they're going to stand out, looking at all of the budgets, all the cities. What are cities doing to save their money for their citizens? Because the game plan is going to be when the cities go to ask for money, they're going to say, well, wait a minute, you're not doing everything you can to keep your own house clean. So when we don't get money from the state, because we didn't do our jobs in trying to save money for the taxpayers, and that's who I work for. I appreciate staff, I appreciate everyone, but I work for the taxpayers. I got elected by the taxpayers. They're the ones paying my salary. They're the ones paying everybody's salary. That's the ones I'm trying to represent. And I will tell you that the overwhelming amount of them want to hold the rate, understanding that they're already going to pay 8% more. Everyone knows they're going to pay more. Why you're asking them to pay even more when we don't have our house in order? And when this comes back to roost, you'll see this again, because it's going to come back when they look at why we didn't cut different things. And I made some offers for cuts, and they were just really throw out offers, because, I mean, I expected discussion to be made for them, but people love to print, well, while I'm talking about getting rid of, not-for-profits. No. I'm talking about shifting some expenses. Nobody wants to get rid of the St. Patrick's Day Parade. For goodness sake, I remember when Mr. Dockwood said this is a signature event. Yeah, the signature event was called Carney Bank and the Carney family and the Plum family and the Burns family. We're the ones who underwrote that parade for years before John Fisher took it over with his not-for-profit. So I understand the importance of the St. Patrick's Day Parade. But I will say, again, that, the DDA says they're our partner, and they are our partner. But the greatest thing they could do to partner with the rest of the city, not just the people within their district, is to say, okay, we'll pick up the cost of that parade. Why? Because 100% of that parade is within the DDA district. 100%. They always say, we want to bring people downtown. Well, I would say the St. Patrick's Day brings people downtown. Same with the Christmas tree lighting. That is something that everybody in the city should not be paying for, because they're not benefiting by it. And I've had this argument before, whether the Christmas parade is included. I think maybe it should, maybe it shouldn't. I certainly think 4th of July is a city event and shouldn't be. But we have to recognize that we have a lot of taxpayers in this city that are not seeing any benefit for the money that the city is spending. And I'm saying this as a guy who was one of the original people with Mr. Powers and my family with starting the St. Patrick's Day with the pink pig. I mean, no, yeah, green pig. He was pink before he was painted green. But anyway, he was the green pig. But actually, I met the pig. So we're not doing our job just by saying we're going to accept the city. I want to set the lower millage rate. I want to set the existing millage rate. Now, one of the speakers got up talking about lowering the millage rate. I would love to get there. I am not going to beat that dead horse, but because when I spoke last year, I said I wasn't going to be able to do the rollback rate a second year in a row, but never did I say I was going to try to increase the millage rate, because that is an increase in taxes. You are actually increasing the rate of taxes someone pays, not just out of pocket, but out of the rate that they're paying. And so anybody who says that, well, you are increasing tax. You are raising the rate, and you're increasing taxes. So my goal was to have everybody look at these numbers, and I know they're going to say, well, this is just tentative. We always have time to roll it back. That's what they always say. Number one, it never happens, because number two, when you set a lower rate, to start with, staff has to go back and find the cuts. They have to go back and figure out a way to make the budget work, because we have to have a balanced budget. So when you give the flexibility, you never get it. And I think anyone who thinks that we really will be lowering the rate, we're doing 6.16, that somehow we could get back to a lower rate is, well, Disney World has its own fantasy land, and I suppose we have that here too. But it's just not going to happen. So we have additional sources of revenue we can make. We have additional ways to shift some of the income. And one of the other things they said was the teen center. Well, let's talk about the teen center at 505. We're spending about $500,000 to support the teen center. It's open from 9 to 5. Great. Kids get there at 3 in the afternoon, but it's open from 9 to 5. And there's about 13 to 15 kids that go. Now, I'm going to use the higher number because the number goes lower. That's $33,000 a child. And my thought is a not-for-profit could run that thing better. We wouldn't be out of pocket at all. And more kids would be serviced, maybe the same amount of kids would be serviced, but we wouldn't have to spend the $500,000 just for 13 to 15 children. And everyone says, well, you're cutting the teen center. No, I'm trying to reallocate resources because I think the teen center is very important. I think all the afternoon programs are very important. But we shouldn't be paying that kind of money for 13 to 15 children. So these are the kind of numbers I'm talking about, which no one is talking about. We're just accepting the numbers come in. Well, we can't do anything. Yes, we can. You set the number lower at 5.9, and you then force everyone to go back to the drawing table, sharpen their pencils, find the money, and at least give the taxpayers of Delray Beach to only pay 8% more in taxes as opposed to a higher number than that. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So thank you all for my remarks, and now I will turn this over to Mr. Long.
Well, first I want to reference Freebie because it came up a couple times. I think we do have a contract renewal with them later this year, and it may be worth discussing if we want to do an RFQ or something. Send that out, because I know some of the other models that are very similar to Freebie, like that are essentially the same thing, have actually moved to a pay model. It's a very low amount still, but that money goes back to the cities that they operate in. So I don't want to get rid of something like Freebie. I think we need it to complement especially our new parking structure that we're talking about. We're more dependent on the garages. We need something like this to complement that, but if there's something where money gets kicked back to the city, maybe it would offset some of those costs. So I think as we get closer to that contract renewal, I think it might be worth talking about that. But anyway, more broadly, Mayor, I'm just frankly going to reiterate some of what I said last time. My stance hasn't changed. I appreciate you going and looking at things we could potentially cut, but in my opinion, most of those things would diminish the level of service we're providing to our residents. And we tried the rollback rate. I didn't agree with it then. I don't agree with it now. We tried it, though, and it put us in not a great position financially. And I'm on board with trying to find efficiencies. I'm on board with trying to find economic opportunities for the city, but we need to stabilize our budget. I don't think anyone up here wants to raise the millage. We just realize we have to. And I think that to sit there and say, cut taxes, cut taxes, cut taxes, keep them low, that's easy to say. Of course you're going to get support for that. Everyone's going to support that. But it's hard to be like, well, we're not sustainable if we keep doing this. That's the hard decision. That's the leadership position. That's good government at the end of the day. And we're not talking about real money. We're talking about $10 per month difference. It's not real. That's on
a $400,000 house.
That's the weighted average that we got. You can question the numbers all day. Okay, let's say it's $20 a month.
Would you sell your house for $447,000?
No, but I pay $20 a month to make sure that my roads are paved, and that our police department's staffed, and that our fire department's staffed, and that we actually can still have our signature events. Yeah, I would happily pay $20 a month for that. Happily. That's the investment, and that's what we have to do. If we're promising residents we're not going to sacrifice the level of service that they deserve, that they're used to, and the level of safety that they deserve and that they're used to, then we have to make the maybe unpopular decision to slightly raise millage and then look at what it looks like over time, and it's still down from what it was in 2024. We cannot account for what the school district does. We can't account for what the county does. We can't account for property taxes going up. All we can do is do our best to responsibly lower our millage every year, and we had been doing that. But if we go super low to the point where we have to stop paving our roads for a year, where we can't act like we can't negotiate with our police union because we're backed into a corner financially, where we have to sit here and talk about pulling guys off trucks even though experts are telling us that it will actually impact response time. We shouldn't even be having those conversations. It's ridiculous that we're in this position. We don't have to repeat that mistake again. We don't have to do that. We can fix it, and then we can still consider the things that you're talking about, Mayor, some of them. There's some of them I'll never consider, but some of them we can still talk about, because I agree with the idea of trying to find efficiencies here, but not at the expense of the level of service that we have to provide to our residents here.
Thank you. Ms. Casal?
Sure. I'll go next. So, first, I supported you. I was your biggest champion last year on the rollback, and you know that. And You were very clear at the end that you knew this, you couldn't do this again. 6 times, 7 times you said, I understand, I won't be able to do this again. We will have to increase the rate. You said increase the rate because of the cost of
Never said
our contracts. Please, I'm speaking. The cost of our fire union contract and a whole host of other things. You said this at least 6 times. And look, today what we're doing is we're making a cap. The cap just says this is where we won't go above, and we can work it. And if you can find reasonable cuts, you know I'm supporting you. But I have to tell you, you sent out 2 emails that threw us all under the bus. Not very nice, saying that we haven't provided any cuts. Mr. Moore knows exactly what I want and don't want in this budget. It is pretty clear. You basically acting like you're the only one up here working for the residents, and I feel like that's super unfair to us because we all work really hard. You know, we have to be honest with our residents. Our expenses are outpacing our revenues. Our reserves are being diminished. That's unquestionable. No one here can deny that. We can't agree on the extent of the problems here, maybe, but there's tacit agreement that there are serious problems here. And we are tasked with fixing them. You know, they're around the corner. Last year we agreed on the rollback, but we said we knew. And we really have a duty to our residents. Those emails, I hate to say this because you're going to be offended, but there was a lot of inaccurate information in your emails. In your first email, and I don't know if it was purposefully misleading or you don't know, but in your first email on July 3rd, you said the additional ad valorem that we would receive, which was supposed to be approximately $8 million, nearly 80% of that would be used. So 80% of the 7 or 8 million is what you said in your email, would be used to cover the cost of living raises that we needed and insurance for our staff. So we could basically stay exactly where we were, according to your email, and we would be fine and have a little extra money. That was not remotely accurate. The cost, if you ask your finance director that question before you emailed, is $11.5 million, in excess of what you anticipated we were getting. You said in your email, all we need to do is find 1.6 million. Now, I would even agree with you if you said, hey, we could keep this, all we have to do is find 1.6, I would find it with you because that's attainable. But really what you didn't tell people is we already cut $4 million out of the budget after our staff did their amazing presentations, what they needed for level of service. Mr. Moore cut about $4 million out of that, then presented us with that number, which was about $201 million that we needed in expenses, and then we were short $26 million. Okay, that's a lot of money. That's not 1.6 million. And what you didn't tell people in that email is how that $26 million hole was getting filled was with vacancies. 18 in the fire department, mostly EMTs, paramedics, and lifeguards. You didn't tell people that. 23 police position vacancies not filled. Parks and Rec. There's a 2-page list of all the vacancies you were going to leave open. I mean, that's in addition to what we're currently functioning at, which most people don't feel is providing the proper level of service. So, and taking $7 million out of our reserves rainy day fund. Now you said, well, no, we were going to fund the nonprofits. In your scenario, there was no line item for the nonprofits. There was no line item for the 3 ambulance EMTs, which our residents have said they want, and we have agreed to accommodate. But you didn't inform them of all of these things. So it looks different when residents are emailing you saying, hold the line, hold the line. They don't even know what they're holding. And I'm fine. If the residents have all the information and they say hold the line, then Mayor, I'm happy to engage. But I don't want to engage when they're not being given accurate and proper information. 90% of our expenses are contractually obligated, whether it's union contracts, contracts for the tennis center, all of our contracts. What is left is 10% for us to be flexible with. And it's really not a lot. We do need to go out and get revenues, but we said that last year and we didn't do it. So the idea of creating a cap on the basis of what we're not going to do, I'm not going to do that again. I won't. You know, we gave the residents a false impression in those emails you sent, or you did, actually. So then, you know, you provided your list of cuts. You said the parking fees, we all agreed on increasing the parking fees in a number of lots, starting it at 11, it's $1 an hour. It seemed reasonable. We don't have a sense of exactly what the revenue coming in from that is, but you've already stepped back on the employee parking. So that revenue goes away. And you know, you made a really derogatory remark about the health insurance. This is our staff. You said they haven't had increases in 8 years. That's not accurate. They have experienced increases by ways of us changing our policies. So they have experienced increases both in 2022 and also in 2023. We don't provide dental. You put that in your email that the residents get dental. And frankly, I utilize the plan, and while I always appreciate insurance, I'm paying out of pocket for so much. I just paid $450 to Gastro Health. I paid $487 to my ear doctor. The policy is not free. And another thing that you said that was totally inaccurate, you said that we could increase every single person's cost by $10. You can't. The union contracts do not allow you to increase the cost of an individual, not a family, an individual who has insurance. So none of those people would be increased. So you're going to get 733 employees with $120. It's about $45,000. So your numbers that you're giving on these cuts are not accurate. They're not mathematically proven out. You're basing your numbers on things that are not accurate, and I'm not wanting to make a decision based on things that aren't accurate, which is why we need to put the cap up. And then if you want to go back line by line through your numbers, I would love to do that with you. But right now, what you're cutting is really gutting, and I'm not doing it, Mayor. The city reduced its services. We're not going to fix the problem by doing that. We're not going to fix our problem reducing our services. We need to figure out how to have financial resiliency going forward. And that is what our finance director said to us, and we are not going to do it by continually diminishing our reserves. We're not. Do I agree with you that the rate of inflation is concerning? Yeah, but your numbers are, again, wrong with that. It's actually 35% if you go over the last 5 years. If you take all our numbers from our ACFRs, which are actually the most accurate. You know, if you go in the budget book, you've got actual, you've got amended, you've got a lot of numbers, but if you want to get the real numbers, you get them from the finance department, from the ACFR, and that's what tells you what's going on. And look, I don't say that, in 5 years, an increase of 35% is amazing, but if you go and look around the whole state at the municipal cost index over the last 10 years, everybody is experiencing increases that are pretty similar. The construction cost index is going up, the consumer index, the producer price index, all these are factored in. What it costs to run a municipality is more expensive than we would all like it to be, but it happens to be a fact. So, I mean, I'm committed to protecting our financial future, and I think we need to come to a consensus on how to do that when we have accurate information that we can all agree on. But these numbers that you're throwing out to people, they're not accurate, and we cannot be basing determinations on inaccurate information. I want to work with you on this, and I will work with you on this, but when you talk about special events, the boat parade, people are going to go bonkers. We got rid of the boat parade once accidentally, and we got about, 400 emails, and we were begging to be allowed to get back into it at the last minute. Savor the Avenue? I mean, that is a cherished event in the city. We're not going to sponsor that. Do we think that nonprofits in this current economic climate are going to have the wherewithal to step up? and do this jazz on the Ave? No. And when you talk about, someone talked about the St. Patrick's Day Parade. I know at one point you were privately sponsoring it, but when I was talking to Parks and Rec about it, we were paying somebody to take care of that event along with 4 others, and it was costing us money. We were paying the same amount to have it, and we were paying somebody a fee to oversee it. So it was actually a cost savings to take that into the city. The sustainability department, I'm going through some of your cuts. You want to cut the sustainability department. I absolutely will never support that. In your note, you said, well, who has sustainability departments? Well, our director just went over to Boca. They have a pretty big sustainability department. And while you can argue, does someone have a full department or not? Boynton just implemented a climate action plan, and we were slotted to implement ours, which is a really big thing. And I want to do that. Economic development, I don't think we should eliminate that department. We didn't have that department 4 years ago, and people were begging for us to have that department. Could we direct that department to be doing different things? Absolutely. And I don't know how you come up with the $500,000 on the teen center, because I believe we staff 1 person there during the week. I don't know, but I'd like to see where you got that number from.
It comes from the city.
Okay. Well, that's all I'm saying is today, with the information that we have, I think we should go with the cap of the 6.1, and I will work tirelessly with you to find cuts. And if we can get to a different place, I will be happy to go there with you like I did last year, but I'm not going blindly.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Marker.
Sure. Thank you. Mayor, I want to disagree with one of your statements that you made during your monologue, that everyone doesn't benefit from downtown activity. I just don't fundamentally agree with that. Absolutely, the merchants benefit from that. You know, our bars and restaurants definitely benefit from that, but I can tell you as a Lake Ida resident, I feel like I benefit from that. That creates the charm of the town, and it keeps my housing value, you know, right up at the top where I want it to be. So I think any and all the activity that we do in the downtown area benefits everybody in the community. I just feel really strongly about that. You know, the young lady that came up and talked about the freebie, I'm so glad you came up and brought that to our attention. That hasn't really surfaced, and I think we need to look at that. You raised some really incredible points that we have to do some homework on, so we'll probably follow up with you, if that's okay. Rob will annoy you, but I'll be okay. One of the things, Mr. Moore, I saw in the budget presentation is that we are going to tap into reserves a bit. And I just want to throw this out, and I ranted about this a couple of months ago. As most of you know, with my other job, I spend a lot of time in Washington. We have to be very, very careful with our reserves going forward. I'm really hypersensitive about this. FEMA has been decimated, and you need only look at the results of what happened in Texas last week and all the resignations that happened, and FEMA's inability to really get their arms around that disaster in Texas, which, by the way, is much more contained than a Cat 4 or a Cat 5 it's going to be in our back of the woods. So I feel really strongly, and again, I'm in D.C. all the time, we have to be prepared to handle a disaster on our own, because you cannot count on FEMA being available. Same with the State Department. They just laid off 1,800 people. So there's real cuts that are happening in Washington. It hasn't been proven out yet what the effect of those cuts are going to be. Maybe I'm dead wrong, and FEMA is going to have the resources to fly into Florida and help us out. But I'm personally really skeptical of that. So I would suggest we be very careful with our reserves going forward, and that we should probably come up, Henry, with what we think the right number is, and at some point, yeah, just come up.
We have the policy 21 to 25.
Yeah, and I think we should really adhere to that to make sure that we don't fall below that. I think
And the considerations that are being offered do adhere to that.
Yeah.
So we're clear in that regard, and we are, if I may, Mr. Marker, just to contribute, we're very conscious, and we do what we can to follow the logistics in that regard. We're understanding, of course, considerations offered at the federal level involve making resources more rapidly available at the state level to work closely with the cities accordingly.
Yep.
Hopefully that will prove to be the case. However, myself and Mr. Dacquis and I should say, working closely with the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada, evaluating different opportunities in that, we need to do what we can to have a robust fund balance structure. And we've been affirmed that the 21% to 25% position does generally work quite well. It enables us to maintain the strong bond ratings in which we enjoy, so I'm not terribly concerned about it in this regard. However, prospectively, we look forward to doing what we can as we manage financial resources of the city of Delray Beach, maintaining attention and focus in that realm as well.
Yeah, I think that's healthy for the long term of our community. I've only got a couple more things. I struggle with suggestions that we get not-for-profits to pay for specific programs like the St. Patrick's Day Parade. It's very difficult for me to sit up here and say that that's not a bad idea, but we haven't knocked on anybody's door yet to find out if they're actually willing to do that. So to say that we should get somebody to underwrite that and just go ahead and arbitrarily cut it, well, if they don't underwrite it, then we're DOA.
For the record, I said have the DDA pay for it, because it's within their
that's fair. But I just want to make sure that we actually have somebody who's going to pay for it, and that event just doesn't fall off the list, because I don't think that's good. Last thing I'll throw out, and I throw this out to all the residents. It's most of you know my corporate career as a CEO internationally and domestically. One of the things that you learn to do very, very well is balance the long term and the short term in everything that you do. And I feel like at times in our city we're balancing the really short term issues. And I think that's super dangerous, and I don't think that you put us up here to do that. So sometimes there are decisions that we have to make for the longer term haul that affect the shorter term. And I think sometimes we're not so good at that. And I'll throw you some examples that are out there. We have a water treatment plant that is 62 years old. It was built when I was 5. That's gotten kicked down the can.
I'm older than the plant.
I'm sorry to hear that. But that's just, I throw that example out to say that ain't good long-term balancing for our city. It's not. To allow that to go 62 years old, it's crazy. We have a golf course that's a hidden beauty. Go out and take a look at it. That's 20 years past its due date, where we should have, with longer-term planning, been ahead of that. We have a cemetery in Delray Beach that we're out of space next year. And again, how is it that we didn't know that and we didn't plan for the long term? And there's other things that have come on my radar that are coming up. Look at this building. Take a look at City Hall. This building has aging infrastructure when you walk around. It really does. This isn't going to last another 30 years. Similar with the police department. Walk over and take a tour of the police department. It's got aging infrastructure. So the only reason I throw that out is it's been beat into me in the corporate world as the CEO that you got to balance long and short term. And I don't think we've been doing the best job balancing the longer term. And we have to do that. If we want this town to be here for a long time, and we want our kids to enjoy it and our grandkids to enjoy it, and we want it to be sustainable, we got to make long-term and short-term decisions. And we've been making a lot of short-term decisions for a long time. And I think as a commission, I hope that we can be the catalyst for taking good long-term care of our city. And I don't think we've been doing that for a long time. And I think we all need to feel like that's important. So apologize for being on the hamster wheel too long on that, but that's how I feel.
Keep rolling, baby. Commissioner Burns.
Yes, thank you. So we received a lot of email from our residents and taxpayers, and I appreciate each and every one of them. Actually, there was 75, and I read all of them, and I value your input. I made it clear that I do not support placing undue burden on our taxpayers. We have people who are retired, people on fixed income, our seniors, and some costs we have no control over, like the taxes, the Florida Power and Light, our food, healthcare costs, insurance. And I agree that this 447 is lowballing it. And it's not just $20. It's $20 for that, but the additional cost for the insurance, it all adds up, and it's coming out of the same checkbook or pocketbook. I think that we need to recognize, too, that face the reality that the rollback rate, while it may be well-intentioned, has played a part in putting us where we are. As our property values continue to go up, our millage rate should be going down. And we were on a very good trend of doing that over the past 10 years, as our history showed us. However, at this time, I am not for raising the millage. I think that we need to hold where it is, even though I didn't vote for it. I think that I read also, Mayor, all of the suggestions for revenue that you submitted. Some of it I can support, a lot of it I cannot support, but still willing to work with you to find cuts that we can use to make this budget balance. However, with the with staying where we are or increasing it does not have a solution. We are still going to be in that suggested area making cuts. So my position is to hold where we are with the rate.
Just to address a couple of the comments, since they were kind of all directed at me. Well, actually, you didn't direct any at me. I'll go back to that. But nobody's talking about a reduction in level of services. And you're right, we can't account for what the school board does and others can do. We can only account for what we do with our own citizens. And it's our own citizens, the portion where we can control, that I'm trying to control. I never said I would reduce the rate. I said I could never do the rollback again, which is, I'm sorry, Mr. Ronald, which is what you recommended. I'm not going to be able to do that, but it's a great idea. But I won't be able to do that. I certainly agree that the Office of Economic Development should be redeployed elsewhere, because all they seem to be doing are job fairs, which is done by 3 other groups. And if you go to Boca, you go to other places, they're all out there trying to get business to move into town, not just trying to find jobs for people, which is really an Office of Employment opportunities out that maybe we should just rename it, because they're not bringing in new business. And I will actually echo something Mr. Long said the other day. We need to get somebody, rapid response person, we need to get somebody in whose job it's going to be to try to get business into this town. That was a very good suggestion, and I'd love to explore that further with you. As for the health insurance, we had 28 plans. I don't know what the numbers, I'd have to ask HR. And they reduced it down to 6 or 7. So there was some reconfiguration of what people had to pay.
I can quote that more accurately.
Well, okay. Apparently I'm inaccurate on everything, which I'm not.
Well,
but go ahead.
Just
because certain commissioners say it's true doesn't make it true.
I would love to respond to that if I
And that
can.
counts for me too.
Yeah, well, but facts are facts. You can't change facts.
Right. Alternate facts is good too.
It's easy for me
not
to
really.
discuss.
Alternate facts are not good, actually.
Please. Sir.
It's easy for me to discuss this, ladies and gentlemen, because this was update number 2 in this past Friday's information letter report, July 18, 2025, in which my interest was to offer an accurate summary of the efforts we executed.
I'm not finished, Mr. Long, Mr. Moore, though, and I have several other things I'd like to say. So if you're trying to wrap it up, can we hold till I'm finished?
Okay, I was simply responding to the healthcare position.
Oh, okay, well then just as a quick answer, what was it?
It was 3 years ago. It was 144 plans that was reduced by half to 72. That was reduced again the following year down to 48, and that likewise provided an opportunity for administrative management of what the rate outcomes would be, and that's a continuous process. I emphasize that because
That wasn't very clear. What you're saying, though, is for the people, employees, that consolidation resulted in them paying more.
Some.
that's correct.
Not
Correct.
all. Some.
That's
Twice,
correct.
22
No question.
and 23.
But still, the amounts were de minimis. But we could go, those are facts. I'm making my comments. So I'm glad you brought up the fact that all parts of Delray Beach benefit from downtown, which is why I have a problem with a very small part of downtown paying 1% more in their property taxes than the rest of us. We all benefit. Every single zip code in this city benefits from what the DDA is doing downtown, and which is why I think that the DDA should, if they're our partner, pick up some of these costs that the city is doing that benefit all of downtown, if that's what you're saying, because they are downtown. So I believe that I've given you 3 different events. I think there may be more, but I think that the DDA, which is increasing their millage again this year to a full mill, you're going to bring in an extra, whatever it is, a couple $100,000. That's a good number to go to pick up these things to relieve the taxpayers that we all benefit from. But it's in their district, and they're already paying 1% more than the rest of us. So I thank you for bringing that up. I wouldn't have. As for Savor the Avenue, let's talk about Savor the Avenue for a second. And I was not going to discuss this until you said it's a wonderful thing. It is a wonderful thing. I go every year. Average ticket price is $250. There were 12 restaurants. Each restaurant had an average of 4 tables. So your $250, in addition to your $250, you tax and tip were extra. So you paid $330, give or take, for your ticket. Do you know how much the charities get from not-for-profits get? Restaurant has 4 tables. They make $10,000 off the tables under my example. It could be higher because I didn't justify all the prices. So plus the tax and tip are extra. I said each restaurant pays a whopping sum of $200. So those 12 restaurants paid a total of $2,400 for that marvelous event, to which also the DDA put up, I'm getting those figures, I think it's 60,000, could be 40,000, notwithstanding the sole beneficiaries of that thing, of the restaurant. It was started years ago when we didn't have the restaurant trade. And so to suggest that somehow that it's a charity, yeah, it is. It's the city paying so that the restaurants can prosper. So that's the charity. They're the charity. So thank you for telling me about Savor the Avenue, because I don't think most people know exactly how much or how little each charity actually gets. In the old days when it was started, every seat, a percentage of every seat went to the local not-for-profits. Not so today. $200 a restaurant. So you do the math. I mean, so you pay $10,000 for a table, you get $10,000 for the restaurant, plus tax and tips, so they're not out of pocket there, and they have to pay $200. That's a great deal, ladies and gentlemen, and I want that deal. And I just want to say that this commission should be proud that it's finally going forward with the water plant, because
Amen.
It is sad.
Amen.
And the golf course, ditto.
Amen.
And so there are things we are doing that are right. I'm not going to confuse the capital improvement budget, though, with our operating budget.
100%.
So, the fact that we're doing those items, that's part of your capital improvement budget.
Amen.
So anyway, and I just want to say one thing about FEMA.
Fair enough.
We are still waiting, and anybody that's ever sat in where Mr. Dokowitz is sitting is going to tell you, we're still waiting for money from Irma. And no, we are Irma. We're still waiting for money from Irma.
I wouldn't sit by the mailbox.
It's a million. What was it? It's over $1 million. Aren't we still waiting for what? I don't know the amount. Okay, but but we're still waiting for money from Irma. Now, that's because Washington does all the other stuff. The FEMA proposals are to let the states distribute the money and get rid of the and that may work, because I do think that if you give the money to the states, there's accountability with local officials, and if you don't give them money, they're going to vote you out. So, I mean, I do think so. I'm not as worried about FEMA as you are. But anyway, that's my stuff. So I've given my spiel. Everybody's given their spiels.
Yep.
So I would. That's what we have. So somebody needs to do something.
I move to approve the staff's recommendation that the city commission set the proposed millage rate at 6.166 mils for operating and .0309 mils for
It's
debt service.
6.1611.
Correct.
Sorry.
What did I say?
You said 6.6
I'm sorry, 6.1611. My apologies.
for operating and .039.
.0309 mils for debt
Right.
service for a total of 6.1920 mils.
Thank you. Second.
Okay, I'm handing this to you. I'm offering a substitute motion under the Robert Rules of Order, which, by the way, a substitute motion takes precedent over that's one you vote on first. I am voting for no increase in the millage rate of 5.906. That is the millage rate that I'm.
That would be 5.9063 operating.
I'll go with the 6.3. You could have even done 6.4. I would have gone. Okay.
Could I ask a question? Why doesn't the agenda say cap?
Well, let the mayor finish the motion.
Oh, okay, I'm
So
sorry.
I've offered a substitute motion. I need a second.
Second.
Okay.
Well,
Now, under the
Do you
Robert's
want to
rules, the
address-
substitute motion gets heard first.
No, I
Voted on
understand.
first.
But I think you need to address the debt service and then for the total, or is that the total?
No, that's what we're setting our millage at.
She's saying if
The
you
current
do
millage-
the
You have the
debt
operating
service.
and the debt service and then the total.
Right.
So in other words, Mayor, your millage rate should be 5.9063 plus 0.0309 mils.
Correct.
For a
Including debt,
total-
which is what the other millage also includes, the same debt service millage
but
of
I just want it
0.03.
to be
That's
very
fine.
clear.
So
And what's-
that's my motion, and
And
it's
then
on.
Mr. Moore is just gonna give you the total. Glad you're here. What
Right,
is it?
so
5.1.
we have,
Nine.
I can take the gavel back now. You didn't do anything with it. You had your shot.
I know, I was gonna end the meeting.
You should have done that.
I was this close, yeah.
So the total again for the record, 5.9372.
You gotta keep it to the vote. You have to call for the vote of the substitute.
Oh, I get to
motion.
call for it.
Well, you need to vote on the substitute motion first, and then after that wins, we're over. Should it not prevail, then you can hand it back to me and I'll handle the next vote.
So when do I gavel for your theatrical substitute motion?
Now, the substitute motion, we have a motion and a second.
Okay.
Call the roll.
You have to, yeah.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Marker,
Are we voting on Mr. Carney's?
Yes, the
Yes.
substitute motion.
No.
Vice Mayor Long,
No.
Commissioner Cassell,
No.
Deputy Vice Mayor Burns,
Yes.
Mayor Carney.
Yes. Okay, that substitute motion
So I'm getting to
fits.
bang it.
You don't even get to
Do you want
bang
it?
it.
Do you want it?
Yes,
I'll let
all
you.
Like I bang at the end?
We'll come back to you.
All right.
Jeez, you know.
Now I get to bang the thing.
Okay. All right. There is a motion. There is a motion on the table to adopt the temporary millage rate, which is going to be sent to the property appraiser's office for purposes of the trim notice of 6.1. Give it to me.
6.1611 plus 0.0309 for a debt to include the debt service for a total of 6.1920 mils.
Great.
Call the roll.
Call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Long,
Yes.
Commissioner Cassell,
Yes.
Deputy Vice Mayor Burns,
No.
Mayor Carney,
No.
Commissioner Marker.
Yes.
Great. Okay. Okay. Mr. Moore, would you like to be recognized?
Yes, sir, I would. Thank you.
I recognize you.
So I appreciate the direction, ladies and gentlemen, extremely helpful, and everyone's input is highly valued and appreciated, and we do take that into account as we engage in recommendations and considerations, which quite frankly, as I shared during my introductory remarks at the beginning of the meeting, is a big reason why we are where we are. And I emphasize again, we do what we can to identify any and all efficiencies in operations. A couple of you all credited the staff, the office of the city manager, for the good work that's been initiated to get to that place. I'm therefore professionally grateful. So what I'd like to do at this time is summarize next steps moving forward. In September, the proposed budget involves 2 hearings as it does every year. Your meeting schedule for the month of September will be Wednesday, September 3rd, first hearing, second and final hearing, Monday, September 15th. Different days other than Tuesdays, of course, because we have to allow the school district of Palm Beach County, et cetera, to go about their process, and the calendar actually works and falls within that time frame this year. Wednesday, September 3rd, 5 p.m., and Monday, September 15th, 5 p.m.
Wednesday, September 3rd?
Wednesday, September 3rd, yes, sir. Your calendars have been updated accordingly,
Oh, then I don't need to.
so I don't think you should be concerned about that in that regard. I'm sorry? The 15th, Monday the 15th.
You were out of the country.
You're out of the country, so it needs to be updated. It's actually Monday the 15th, Miss
Join
Gentleman.
Prague or someplace like that.
Well, we'll hook you up. So that's the calendar, ladies and gentlemen. However, so in advance of September 3rd, we will be providing you with updated proposed budget material based on the guidance having been achieved this evening, as well as an opportunity for further review. Otherwise, we will proceed along the lines of what I've outlined in my PowerPoint presentation to you all earlier to achieve a solid balanced budget recommendation, maintaining levels of service. Nevertheless, the process of identifying efficiencies in operations it's not just a function of the proposed annual budget process. That's a continuous exercise so that we can be prepared accordingly. So we are committed in that regard. For the month of August, because several of you outlined and recognized the good work relative to the water treatment plant and the golf course. Your next regular meeting, August 12th, will be a tremendous opportunity for the City Commission to offer direction and votes with respect to applicable transaction processes as it relates to both projects. So now that we've gotten to this place, we can adequately prepare for the August 12th meeting to get us to where we need to be. In fact, before this afternoon's engagement with the City Commission, we were on call with bond counsel, external financial advisors, so as to prepare for both considerations for August 12th. So August 12th will be a big time, as some people would like to describe it as, so that we can get to the place of executing really meaningful work that we've worked hard to achieve. So I look forward to that, ladies and gentlemen, and I wish to thank every last one of you for your input, guidance, and direction. Likewise, the path forward continues. Much appreciated.
Mayor, could I ask
Thank you very much. Yes, would
a
you like-
question? We never had the experience of losing a representative before when I sat up here, which is, I feel sad about the loss of Mr. Casello, but I was wondering, should we be sending a letter to the governor asking him to implement the special election? I mean, Rob, you probably know more than I about this, and I think a special election is in order.
Happy to feel that.
But should we typically, as the people represented by him, make that request through the
We
commission?
certainly could. I don't
Yeah.
know that it'll make a difference.
I feel like a letter from the city and the mayor just saying we
Well-
would like a special election.
There
Oh,
are
sugar.
That does it. There are several special elections that are going to be taking place in the state, not just ours.
No,
That's
right.
what they're weighing at the moment.
Yeah.
The man who just got appointed, is it over here?
Do you need your mic?
Yeah. The man who just got appointed, the controller.
Oh,
of the
thank
state-
you.
State senator.
Mayor,
I'm sorry?
we have some insider info.
I just got it sent to me. The state of Florida has set this District 90, is that it?
Yeah.
Qualifying is August 4th to 5th, primary is September 30th, and the general is December 9th.
December 9th? Thank you.
December 9th.
Okay, so
December
we
the
don't
9th?
have to.
December the 9th.
That's 2
That's
days
pretty
after my wedding is scheduled.
Far
Jesus.
out,
Well, that's okay.
Well, you're assuming you're gonna make it through the primary.
right?
Assuming
We're having a workshop that day,
Fair,
too.
fair point. Maybe I'll sandbag it so Mike don't have to move
Yeah,
my
we're going to have a
wedding.
workshop on the 9th, so
Sandbag it.
Oh my
I'm very
God.
sorry.
Jesus.
Are you going on a honeymoon?
Not now.
Oh, you were doing an away wedding. Oh,
To
sugar.
Tallahassee, yes.
You're gonna have to postpone your wedding. I'm
Yeah, 'cause
sorry. You know
Mike
that's
Cru-
you're
Mike
not
Cru-
getting
Mike
married
Caruso's
while you're
seats-
running.
There's going to be Mike Caruso's seat's going to be, there's about 3 or 4 different seats
Where did
now.
you hear
'Cause
that,
The guy's a state
Mary?
senator.
Okay, we should
Just-
close this maybe.
Okay. Is there any other, is there
Matt
any other,
Forrest, Ballot Partners.
is there any other relevant business to come towards the commission?
That was
Mac
relevant.
Bernard.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Well, now we know.
We're adjourned. Oh, well, wait, but we're not adjourned. I have one more thing. Thank you for reminding me, because I spoke to Mr. Moore about this earlier. Many of us, and actually I think this is something that everybody's going to agree with, including in the room. We had a former fire chief, Kerry Cohn, die recently, and he spent a lot of years here and was very well thought of in the city. Even though he was retired, he most recently did the Zach Strawn monument down on the beach. He's been very, very active, and I just thought it might be, rather than try to pick and choose that things that could have political implications. You know, the new fire station that we're opening on Fire Station 113, you typically have the opportunity to dedicate a fire station after someone who has, obviously they have to be deceased, but they have to have that a meaningful part of the building of your fire department in the city. And I don't think there's anybody anywhere that would dispute the fact that he was such a materially instrumental in what the Delray Beach Police Fire Department became. So I would like to be able to give consensus to the city manager that it would be the sense of the commission that the fire station be named after former Chief Kerry Cohn. That's my thing.
Consensus, yeah.
Huh?
Fine with me, yep.
You fine with you, Commissioner Casal?
Yes, absolutely.
Fine with you? Fine with you?
So with that,
Fine with everybody here? Okay, I told you, it's unanimous.
So with that, Mr. Mayor, a reminder, Friday morning we will celebrate and host a ribbon cutting, and the gesture that you all just offered here this evening will be acknowledged as part of the ceremony in recognition of
That's
Kerry
perfect. I
Combs.
think
So
that- I
July
think
25th is coming Friday.
Everybody liked him, so it's great. Thank you very much for that. If there's no,
Yeah, well, can I say something now? Since several passings have been mentioned, I wanted to mention and honor the memory of Frances Borg,
oh yes,
who passed as well.
Yeah.
The heart and soul of Old School Square.
Yep.
I met her just 3 years ago, but in that short time, I felt her kindness, her compassion, and her deep love for the city, and I just wanted to say that about Frances. Her memory lives on, and she will not be forgotten. So just wanted to say that.
her wake will be held on Thursday between 4 and 6 at the Lauren Funeral Home. Her funeral, which will be a Catholic Mass, will be at St. Vincent Ferrer. I think it's at 10:30, but it could be at 10. So at 10:30, is it what you're saying? Yeah, whatever. It's 10 or 10:30. It's going to be on Friday. So on August the 1st. Thank you very much. You're very talkative today.
That's it.
Any other? Did you get that? Did you get the text on that too? So I'm just checking. Anything else? You said you had several things.
No, that was it.
Anything? We're adjourned.
Good night, ladies.